davened. You want to take a bow? Eitan davened beautifully. And I've heard for years that Eli had this wonderful voice. He knew how to daven so well. And Eitan, you might be surprised to know this, but I would ask your father if he didn't actually want to lead davening at the shul. If I knew all it took was a corn costume to get you on the bima, I would have had like 10 of them up there just to pull out anytime you walked in. But you did an absolutely fabulous job, which is to be expected, because if you know Eitan does things in an excellent fashion. It's just so I wanted to speak just briefly to offer a bracha to Eitan, to his family, and to everybody here. It's hard not to have Purim in the back of our minds, especially after the beautiful party last night, which took us back to Shushan. But the first thing that comes to mind for me about Purim, when I think about you, Eitan, is the idea of v'nahafochu. Right? One of the major themes of the Megillah is this idea of reversals, of things being turned upside down, of transformations. Now this appears in the context of the Megillah because at the beginning things look quite dour for the Jewish people. It looks like they're going to be destroyed, but then somehow, some way, there's a giant reversal. Those who look like they were going to be destroyed actually become the victors. And one of the things that we learn from the Megillah is that there are times in which we need to change our perspective. We need to be able to turn things upside down to be able to see things differently, which is what Mordechai and Esther did, right? If they kept going in the direction that the rest of the Jews of Shushan thought that they had no hope, there would have been no hope for the Jewish people. It was only because they were able to flip things on their heads and see that there required special action in that moment were things ultimately able to be different. And Eitan, I don't know, it's partially probably from your mother's amazing artistic sensibility, from your father's ability to think outside the box, but you have that same ability too, to turn things upside down and see things that nobody else can see. Right? It's a very special gift. And it's one that gives you the potential to do all sorts of amazing things, because where people look and only see one thing, right, you see all these possibilities. And that's a very, very special creative gift to have. And it really leads into the second part of the bracha that comes from the Megillah, and that is the idea of simcha. Right? We know simcha is a major theme on Purim. You can say it's maybe the central mitzvah, the central obligation of what Purim is all about. And what's interesting is that in Jewish thought, right, it's actually, you can say it's a mitzvah to be joyous, not just on Purim, but at all times, right? Tehillim, it says, Idu et Hashem b'simcha, that we have to serve God joyfully and with happiness. But the reality is, to be joyful, to be happy, it's not just something you do, it's a real skill. It's something you have to work on. Right? In Hasidic thought, there's an idea that simcha requires hafra'ah. It requires, a choice. You have to make a decision to be joyful. And I think your ability to be able to turn things upside down and see things other people don't see is what also gives you the ability to be joyful in ways that other people don't necessarily expect from the beginning. I've seen it just with, even you play with Nachum, right? You have an ability to crack jokes. You have an ability to have fun, right? Other people will be in a situation that think it needs to be serious, and Eitan finds a way to be silly in mostly an appropriate fashion, and it brings a lot of joy. But that comes because you can, like I said, you can turn things upside down, you can see things differently, and there's an ability that you have to bring joy to others because of that. That's also something, again, your parents excel at, right? People see one thing, they see some other possibility, and they realize they can bring joy and meaning to all sorts of people through that. And that really takes us to the last part of the bracha, right? Because the simcha on Purim, one of the most important ideas that comes out of the Rambam and other great rabbis is that the simcha on Purim is not just for us. Right? It's not just about having a party and having a good time. That's part of it, but it's not the sum total of what the simcha on Purim is supposed to be. Right? Ultimately, simcha in Torah is about bringing joy to others. And we do that on Purim, of course, through the Matnot Levyanim, gifts to the poor, Mashloach Manot, gifts to our friends. And the Rambam and others say that is where the true joy is to be found. Because when you make other people joyful, especially people who are feeling low, who are suffering, who are in pain, when you bring joy to them, you are actually acting in a godlike fashion. Because that's what the Shekhinah does. God's presence brings joy and happiness and meaning to those who feel pain, to those who feel loss, and those who feel sorrow. And when you put all of these gifts together, Eitan, It means you've got a special bracha to give over to the world, right? To be able to see things differently, to be able to be joyful, and to bring that joy to others. I mean, I can tell you right now, living in the moment that we're in, right? Those are gifts that are needed now more than ever. And it's something that your family has, all of them. And it's a mitzvah that you should take and you should keep focusing on and keep doing it because the Jewish people need it and the world needs it. And it's something we should all be thankful for. So again, you should only go from strength to strength and just take all the positive energy from this bar mitzvah and keep bringing it forward. So mazal tov.